Hey, I'm Chris Zett from Make Everything, and today I'm going to show you how I made this sign on my CNC. Check it out. Alright, so I'm actually going to start out with some 1x8 pine boards that I had laying around. Now I want to use the pine as a backer for the sign itself. And while the pine boards are nice and wide like this, they have a little bit of a cup to them, and I want it to look a little more slatted and be a little more structurally sound and not move around. So I just went over to the table saw and I ripped them down into 3 pieces each, and then I'm going to head over to the joiner to get those edges nice and clean so that the glue up works out really well. I just did a quick little layout so that I could see the way the boards were going to line up. And then over on the joiner, I use this little trick where you take the boards that are going to meet, you put the aligning edges next to each other, then you fold them up towards each other. And basically what this does is it allows the joiner blades to reference off of one another. So basically the joiner blade versus the edge of the joiner are going to create a perfect seam where those boards are going to line up perfectly, even if your joiner fence isn't perfectly 90 or if anything's out of whack on the joiner itself. It's a really good trick for making tabletops or making backgrounds, because no matter what your material is like, you can always get it to perfectly line up with a joiner like this. Now, in order to make the glue up on this easier, I decided I wanted to use some dominoes. So I did this little trick with one of Jimmy's ice picks and the tape measure, and I just drew out the circle. I was going for about a 20-inch circle so I could see where the dominoes would have to go. I put little reference marks on the board so that I can make sure that I put the dominoes in the right place. I'm using 5mm dominoes. Now, if you're not familiar with a domino joiner, a domino is basically like a better version of a biscuit joiner. And for something like this, obviously this isn't structural. This is really just to make the glue up go that much faster. The domino process took maybe 10 minutes. And what it's going to allow me to do is when I do this glue up, everything's going to line up perfectly. And the glue, being slippery, isn't going to make any of the pieces wiggle around on me while all that glue's in there. I did a quick dry fit just to make sure everything was going to work out. And then after that's done, I can go up and do the glue up. I've got these clamps that I got from Harbor Freight. They're like 36 inches long. They're not the greatest. They don't really provide a ton of pressure. But for something like this, a little panel or a small tabletop, they'll work out great. And I'm just using some Type-On 2. I want something that's going to dry relatively quickly. I do here have this little glue bottle attachment though, which is this kind of rubber roller. And it just makes gluing up a board like this that much easier, because instead of having to use a separate glue brush, I'm able to just sort of roll it out on there. And then I actually take the domino and I grab a little bit of glue that's dripped over the side, and I put those on the dominoes just to make sure that there's some glue inside that pocket. I go through all the boards here just one at a time, gluing them up, sticking them together, and getting them set up for this clamp. I've got 2 clamps on the bottom. I'll throw a little bit of a spacer board in the side over there just to make these work a little bit better, and I'll throw a 3rd clamp over the top. My goal here is to make sure that this glue up stays flat. A lot of times when you glue up boards like this, they'll tend to cup, but the dominoes will help with that, and so will the 3 clamps. Now I'm going to be using my new CNC for this. This is a Tormach 24R. It's a 24x48 CNC machine, ball screws, a really strong water-cooled spindle, a vacuum table, and what's nice about it is it runs off the Tormach Path Pilot software. So if you're familiar with Tormach machines, they're more known for their milling machines and lathes. But what's cool about this machine is that it utilizes the same software that some of those more industrial style machines use. So learning the language of the software and learning how to utilize it translates across all their machines. I'm using an 1/8 inch spiral down cut end mill, and this is going to just cut out these sign letters really perfectly. I'm using 1/2 inch MDF. This isn't really like particularly great MDF. It's from Home Depot, and anyone that's tried to make a sign like this knows that sometimes the Home Depot MDF can be a little soft and the edges can be a little open. So I just cut out these letters. The cut's really, really nice. The problem here, and the little mistake I made though, is that I didn't measure the thickness of that MDF before I made the cut. So I actually was a little shallow of cutting through the back of the material. And that's not a huge deal in MDF because it's pretty easy to just take a razor blade and cut the letters out. but it definitely added some time to the build that I really didn't anticipate. I didn't want to have to, cut and fix all these letters with this knife. But at the same time, this was a little bit of a rush job, and I didn't have any more MDF around that I couldn't use to, make these letters again. Gave me a little bit of a lesson, though, to make sure that I always have a digital caliper nearby so that I can precisely measure the thickness of my material. Because, with a machine like the Tormach, I'm able to use a tool setter to know exactly where the end of my end mill is. So if I tell the machine that the material is a certain thickness, it's going to cut exactly that thick. Once these block letters were done, I just grabbed my little orbital sander and cleaned them up a little bit. And I'm going to be priming these with some Rust-Oleum clean metal primer, which was a trick I got from my friend Derek from Malden. But in order to space these letters up off the table while I'm painting them, I just threw some screws in the back. Now, it's important anytime you're painting anything to paint all sides of it. Wood, MDF, any real material will have a tendency to warp towards the paint as the paint dries. It'll constrict the material. So obviously I don't want those letters to cup, so I primed all the sides, and then I'm able to move on to the second name. The second name is a kind of cursive. So again, I'm using the same 1/8 inch end mill, and I'm just letting the machine do its job. What's nice here, I have my dust collector boot kind of far off the table, but it's still collecting all the fine dust. And since this speed and feed rate is pretty optimal for this cutter, I'm getting like small chips instead of a ton of dust, which works out really well. The Tormach is super precise and obviously really capable to cut 1/2 inch MDF. And this time I did a little bit better job measuring the thickness of the material. So I definitely made sure that I cut all the way through with my end mill the first time. After taking out the screws and using my dust collector to pull out some of that dust, I used a little oscillating tool to get in there and cut some of the tabs that I left behind. This script name is a lot more fragile than those big block letters, and I want to be careful not to break it. So I just used the oscillating tool on a low setting to clip a little bit of the tabs that were left behind. Now I'm being super gentle with my orbital just to try to clean up some of the little fuzzies left behind and get this thing also ready to be primed. I used a font that I found online for this, which worked out really well and looks like an authentic cursive, handwritten name. Now the clean metal primer probably isn't your first thought when it comes to painting MDF, but it really does a great job filling the side grain on this stuff, and it's going to hold the finished paint really, really nicely. For the first name, I'm going to be using this baby blue from a paint company called Plutonium. It's very similar to a Montana Gold. It dries very, very quickly, and it's sort of an artist paint. Here we've got my fiance Angela actually painting some of the letters so that we can get this thing done a little bit quicker. For the second name, which is the middle name on the sign, we used a Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch. It's like a 2X paint in a flat white. Again, we used the flat paint just because it would dry that much faster and it would just help us get through the project. Now the glue up's done, I'm able to cut the circle out. Now I had set up a little circle cutting jig on my bandsaw, and this is something that I normally will just do anytime I have to cut a circle, which is just take a piece of scrap wood, put a screw through the bottom of it, screw it to the bottom of my board, and then screw this down to the wooden table on my bandsaw. Unfortunately, when I went to cut this, something happened and my blade bound and it popped off the wheels. After that happened, I just gave up on the jig and I cut it freehand. Later on, I'll actually wind up going back, setting the jig up again, and cutting a perfect circle. But if you have questions on how to cut a perfect circle on your bandsaw, there's 1,000,001 videos and 1,000,001 different jigs you can use and build to cut really nice circles without any issues. I've got some 80 grit sandpaper on my 6-inch Mirka sander, and I'm just trying to get down those glue lines, make sure everything's nice and smooth. I did minimal sanding on the back, and then Angela stepped in and sanded this thing up to 220, which would just give us a nice finish that we could then apply some stain to. The 6-inch sander makes a big difference. If you're on the fence about upgrading from a standard 5-inch to a 6-inch, just think about the extra surface area you get there. Plus this Mirka sander does a really, really great job. Super, super smooth, and I've been really happy with the dust collection. Sanding is something that nobody wants to do, so if you can have a better tool to do it and do it more efficiently, I really do think that it's worth the investment. One of the big things when you're going to stain anything is make sure you get that end grain nice and smooth, otherwise it'll look muddy. So I made sure to sand that up to 220, and then I set Angela up with some walnut stain. Now, if you watched my last video making that little memory box, you know that I very often like to not mix that stain, so I get a little bit lighter and more of a, sort of rustic wood look. So that's sort of just the top layer of this oil-based Minwax walnut stain, and just rubbing it on with the grain, giving it some time to dry, and making sure it's totally soaked into the end grain. And once it dries, it flattens out really, really well. For the finish on this, I'm going to be using a satin poly. But before I apply that, I'm going to take a little bit of 220 sandpaper and just scuff up, whatever little fuzzies might be left over from that oil-based stain. I put the satin poly on with a foam brush, and I give it a little bit of time between each coat to dry. Actually sit it in front of a heat lamp because my shop's pretty cold. Overall, I put 5 coats of satin poly on this, which really brought out the character of the wood, and I think it definitely needed it. Sometimes I'll go with a wax finish, but after I was done staining this pine, it really looked flat and dead, and I wanted it to have a little more pop than that. So a couple of thin coats of the satin poly, not going too crazy, and letting it dry in front of this heat lamp really, really made the grain pop, and it's got a really nice look. While that was happening, those letters were drying, so now it's time to just glue them on to the board. I used this scrap piece of walnut as an alignment jig, and then I just took a pencil and I made a couple little marks on it just to make sure my letters all wound up in the right spot. I'm using a thick CA glue from Starbond to glue these down. It's more than enough, and you don't need to add any activator. If you just give it a couple minutes to dry, once those letters are on there, they'll never come off. You can see the spots on the backs of those letters from where I pulled out those screws. There's no real damage to them, and they worked out really well. Once I got the first name on, I just did a little bit of alignment with another little block of wood, gave myself some reference line with some pencil, and used some thick CA glue to glue that name down. Now, since that name was super light, I put a little bit of weight on top of this board, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and allowed that glue to dry so it wouldn't go anywhere. The last thing to do is just add a little hanging bracket. I did a little bit of measuring to make sure I wound up in the center. You can sort of see those glue-up lines on the back, and I added a little picture mounting hook. I like these little sawtooth ones. Since this sign is round, it'll make it a little bit easier to make it hang square. If it's a little bit out of center or something like that, kind of correct its own mistakes. I threw a screw on the wall in my shop so I could see how it looked, and then I brought it over to the person's house, hung it on their wall in their new baby's room, and it came out really nice. I'm super happy with it. All right, that about does it for this video. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. This is the first sign like this I've ever made. You've probably seen signs like this made before. They're all over Etsy and all over the internet. My friend Derek from Malden has been making stuff like this for a while, and he helped me out a lot with, sort of the ins and out of finishing the MDF and sort of getting the look that I wanted. So if you want a sign like this, hit Derek up. He's been making these a lot. This was just sort of a one-off for a friend of mine, so I don't really plan on making too many more of these, but it was a fun experience, and I think I will probably make some more in the shop for myself or for friends and family. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you have any tips on how I could improve the finish on something like this, go ahead and leave them down there as well. There's usually a good dialogue of people kind of sharing tips and tricks in the comments of the video, so I'm always happy to see that, and I'm always happy to answer any questions that I can down there as well. If you want to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis here in the shop, follow me right here at Make Everything Shop. I post pretty much every day on my Instagram, sharing behind-the-scenes stuff. I showed the process of making this on my Instagram, and I'm always kind of doing something over here, and there's always a good back and forth in the messages and the comments there as well. If you have questions about the Tormach CNC, don't forget to check them out. There'll be a link down below as well. This thing has been really awesome. It's super accurate, super robust, and I'm just sort of scratching the surface of what it's actually capable of, when it comes to milling hardwoods, milling MDF, and soon I'm going to be getting into some aluminum and brass on this machine as well. And I think for its size and its power with the Path Pilot Pro, I think it's a great option for a home or a small business shop. That's about it. Again, I'm Chris Zepp from Make Everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more like this, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks.